1994 Democracy and New Act, National Water Act, the National Environmental and Management Act, the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Act, the National Nuclear Regulator Act, and the Constitution. So much legislation, but so little power. Even being able to hold directors of mines personally liable for pollution hasn't made a difference.
We need the political will to see this thing through. We need to see people going to jail because of what they're doing, not only to the environment, but the people of South Africa. And we don't see that.
The Department of Water Affairs' Marius Keert has been shoved into the front line to answer the difficult questions.
People are calling this a catastrophe. That's how strongly they're putting it.
And we agree. From the Department of Water Affairs side, we agree that this could be a catastrophe if you don't look after it. But that's why you've got commitment.
Left on its own underground, uranium doesn't pose much of a threat, but brought to surface, it becomes, well, nasty. And here on the Witwatersrand, there are hundreds of tons of this stuff everywhere.
600,000 tons spread over 400 square kilometers. While acid mine drainage pushes up to the surface, the opposite happens here as the poison from tailings and dumps seeps down into the water table. This has captured the attention of the head of cancer research, Dr. Karl Albrecht.
I've often actually wondered if there's anywhere else on Earth that's got so much uranium lying on the surface in these big mountains.
The Wonderfontein catchment stretches from Randfontein about 100 kilometers west towards Potchefstroom. No other river system has borne the brunt of 120 years of mining like this one. In 2007, Carte Blanche did our own test to establish what was happening to food grown along this river.
The leaks we tested contained 16 times more uranium per kilogram than the daily limit for human consumption as suggested by the World Health Organization.
Renee Potgieter understands just what happens when polluted mine water finds its way into the food chain. The Gerard Minnebrand Eye is on her farm.
So what's in this water? I mean, sitting where we are, it looks pristine.
It looks absolutely exquisite. Smell it. You've got rotten eggs. That's your very high sulfates. That's a direct link. It's one of the fingerprints of acid mine drainage.
The Gerard Minnebrand Eye is one of the two major sources of water for the town of Potchefstroom, and studies concur that this water is contaminated with uranium. And so from this channel, it's going to go all the way and end up in people's taps.
We should acknowledge that our uranium levels in the water are way above what they should be, and we should do something about it.
Dr. Frank Vinder from the Northwest University in Potchefstroom has been studying the way uranium moves through waterways for the last 10 years. He has scrutinized well over 3,000 water samples taken by different institutions, including the mines.
Is your sense that things have become worse or better since 2004?
It's not my sense, it's a proper finding, especially in the Boskop-Turfontein compartment where you have pure groundwater, meaning no surface water which receives all the wastewater, but groundwater which sits in an aquifer actually shows a significant increase in uranium levels.
The other source of Potchefstroom's water is the Boskop Dam. Dr. Vinder's study shows that 800 kilograms of uranium per year is flowing into this dam.
Uranium only does damage, and all agencies state that our knowledge about the effects, health effects of long-term, low-dose exposure to uranium-polluted water are not well understood.
He also surveyed the scale of kettles in Potchefstroom and found uranium in those was 20 times higher than similar ones in Ventersdorp. Uranium levels in South African tap water are set at 70 micrograms per litre, but that is much higher than the 15 stipulated by the World Health Organization. Cancer-causing levels have been found from only 40 micrograms.
At the moment, for argument's sake, the level there is 14 micrograms a litre, according to Vinder. If it carries on increasing the way things have increased down there over the last 3 years, which is about 300-400%, then we will get to the cancer-causing level of 40 micrograms a litre within the next 3-4 years in Potchefstroom.
But Marius and the municipality in Potchefstroom dispute Frank's figures and say their water is the best it's been for a long time and it's been independently tested. They were happy to share their test results with Carte Blanche.
It's coming from the Wonderfonteinspreid. So that's a typical example where people shout and scream that, we have problems with water. Yes, there is a challenge. But in terms of Potch, typical example, you can drink the water, it's been treated.
Downstream of DRD's Blyvoor Uitzicht mine is the farm of Renee Potgieter. Her legal battle with them has dragged on for years. She believes her business folded because the uranium levels in her dam are too high, and she blames the mine. The National Nuclear Regulator has conducted tests on onions from her vegetable patch.
I almost fell over backwards when the results showed high levels of uranium in our onions that were grown in this particular vegetable garden that are irrigated from our borehole, which is the household borehole situated over there.
But despite the presence of uranium on the farm and others in the catchment, the NNR did no follow-up studies, and Renee wants to know why.
When you brought all of those things up, what did they say?
Basically silence.
The story of the Western Basin is lots of talk, little action. That's the frustration of hydrologist Garfield Krige. In 1998, the mines in the Western Basin stopped pumping. Garfield predicted that water would come to surface in 2002, and that's exactly what happened right here at this borehole. Garfield was there to take the first photographs.
Even if people didn't believe us, they must have started believing us in 2002 because the evidence was there. We're now in 2010 and still nothing has been done. That's a problem.
45 million cubic meters of water lies inside the Western Basin mine void. When it first decanted, it was fairly clean, but the water pressure below opened up an old mine shaft and everything changed.
It came up a farmer's borehole, which previously had been pumping good quality water. Now suddenly it was putting out this toxic waste.
And it has been flowing ever since. 25 to 50 million litres of this acid mine drainage decants here on Rand Uranium's property. When they bought the property, they agreed they would partially treat the water and remove the iron in this treatment plant, but it's hopelessly inadequate for the volumes. The water ends up flowing untreated into the Krugersdorp Game Reserve, where these two hippos hang out. John Monroe is the CEO.
It is still something that you are responsible for ultimately.
No, we're not ultimately responsible for this water. We are playing a role in managing a much bigger solution of which we are a part.
And that's where it gets tricky. Rand Uranium said they're the good guys because they spend $2 million per month pumping. But the story of water in this basin is one of incompetence by government and clever maneuvering by the mines. It took 3 years before government issued a directive to the mines to clean it up. And Harmony, who owned the property at the time, said they couldn't comply. Another 4 years and lots of meetings took place before the department issued another directive in 2009. This time, new owners Rand Uranium said they couldn't comply.